What are we doing tonight? We are covering this excellent little introductory book. It's written a little weird, but it's still a good book. I'm still very much enjoying it. It goes very well with our other text that we have been working our way through, which is the Whitney Webb book. I did make further progress in that book, and this book will tie well in with that one. So these two texts are companion texts. We got Nation Under You Know What. And then today we're going to be talking about the first half of this excellent little sort of obscure 90s book that I found. And when I say 90s, I'm talking about the most 90s book cover ever. I'm talking about CNC Music Factory designed cover. I'm talking about things that make you go, things that make you go, I'm talking covers that make Freedom Williams sweat. I'm talking Freedom Williams getting a little frisky over here when he sees this cover. Expionage. That's just the title that I gave it, by Donald Bower. Donald Bower is a historical writer. So today's text will be coming to you from the domain of history. And what we're going to see is that this is a really underrated element of how the world really works. That's a crucial theme over here on my channel that we've focused on for many years. And one of the best insights into how the world really works is the study of criminology, the study of secret societies, the study of geopolitics, con artistry, con men, and warfare. All of those things tie together. Banking, economy, obviously, as well, to understand what's really going on. Because most people operate in a sort of delusion, a facsimile synthetic worldview, where they think the world is as TV and their teachers told them. Well, I got news for you. TV is for dummies, and teachers are the same dummies that watch the TV. So all your teachers, for the most part, were dummies. And if they weren't dummies, they wouldn't have been teachers. They would have been doing other things. Now, nothing inherently wrong with a teacher. But very few teachers actually figure out how the world really works and what's really going on. Can people bring beer to your live events? Yes. Every live event that we've done allows you to bring your own alcohol. Biob. You ever see that word biob? That's what it's referring to. Bring your own alcohol. Biob. That's what it means. I sure as hell ain't going to bring you alcohol. I freaking hate alcohol. I'm going to bring you no damn beer. I'm not going to contribute to your tits and your fatness. I hate alcohol. I fight alcohol. Just alcohol. I fight beers. Not people, just beers. I go to war against IPAs. Did you not see my IPA rant? That's figurative language, too. Before somebody says, he's violent. All right, let's talk about some of the famous incidents in history where we've seen blackmail, sex espionage, and spy operations play a key role in turning massive historical events to the other side. We have situations where warfare intelligence was divulged through sexpionage, and it swung the entire war or the entire battle. We have dynasties that have fallen through sexpionage. We have, hey Janet, she can't hear me. She turned that ding dang washing machine on. Actually, what husbands need to throw out the washing machines and make sure that the wives hand wash all that shit with that old Mennonite, like that rake, that big old rake machine, you know? It looks like a giant cheese grater. That's the only way clothes should be washed by all wives. There should be a law on the books. That's just a joke, too, by the way, before people freak out. Did you hear what he said? Every man should marry one Mennonite wife just for that cheese grater for clothes. The giant clothes cheese grater. Anyway, we've seen dynasties fall. We have seen cultures implode through degeneracy. We have seen all manner of trickery, deception, studies, experiments used via expionage. And that includes elements of entrapment, elements of compromat. Have you heard of this term, compromat? Compromat is the details and the information that you get to blackmail a politician or a powerful person, a leader, whoever. And so Donald wrote his book in 1990. So far before we had the details of this book, we did have some information that kind of told us what was going on. And Boer begins his text by saying that probably the most famous element of this was the KGB's School for Swallows and Ravens. By 1945, the Cold War was kicking off, ramping up. And there's an interesting part that I thought was a little contradictory in Boer's book, which is that he says at the beginning that the West didn't like to use operatives for espionage. Yet we read in many places in his book that they did. So I don't know where he gets this idea. Maybe his distinction is that the West was not actively engaged in training operatives for this, but rather they had no problem, of course, getting information from ladies of loose morals. And, shall we say, men of loose morals. Right? Both things going on. Supposedly Alan Dulles, and I don't think I really believe this, said that the purpose of intelligence is to infiltrate vital elements of the adversary's apparatus and to build up local defenses against that penetration by keeping countries aware of the nature and extent of the peril by assisting internal security services. So the idea is that these types of things would not benefit the West, yet MI6 and the CIA used similar, quote, safe houses where Russians were also compromised. So safe houses don't just necessarily refer to a place where a spy can find refuge if he's on the run or something like that. If you watch the movies, that's typically where safe houses come into play. And yet we're told that, oh, well, I guess British intelligence and the CIA did engage this. Now, if Whitney Webb's information is correct, I think it is, then turns out Justine McGeffrey was compromising people for everybody. All kinds of intelligence things. So, once again, this story that the West was not doing this does not seem to be very plausible. We get some of these kind of boring stories early on in the book about the KGB Ravens and Swallows, which I have to think is pretty. Some of these stories must be pretty well known or common because they sound much like the stories the episodes that the Americans has going on. So if you remember in the Americans, I always recommend that show. It's a great show. It's very realistic, but it's also got a bunch of things kind of smushed into it that it's not very realistic. Okay. Clark and that's Clark's his name when he's sleeping with that boring ass Martha woman. But I forget what's Kerry Russell's character's name. I forget her name. Elizabeth and Clark, right? Anyway, this is one of the best TV shows ever. Honestly, I mean, this show is awesome. It's just phenomenal. Everything about it. They ended it well. Most TV shows always screw up the ending, right? Like Lost, great show, and then we get this goofy, weird ending. But they ended the show very well, and there's at least 2 or 3 sequences I can think of off the top of my head in The Americans where we get stories very similar to what pops up in Bower's book. For example, the story of this first guy here, Philip Latour, a KGB entrapment operation with a character named Philip Latour, a French electronics engineer, had a wife and 3 children. In the late 1960s, he was sent. He went on a vacation to the Mediterranean and decided to visit Russia. Now, so many of these stories about these poor, nerdy, lonely men and women, and a lot of these people operate and work in sensitive areas. So I'm kind of amazed and surprised that these people they weren't a little suspicious. I mean, like if you're a boring ass boomer dude, and, you know, you've been with like one girl your whole life or something, you know, maybe you married your sweetheart, you decide to vacation, number one, in Russia in the Cold War. Why the hell would you want a vacation in Russia in the Cold War, first of all? And then like a babe comes up to you? Come on, dude. You got no sense at all? Okay, 9s and 10s, bombshell babes are not interested in boring ass boomers. But what's pretty amazing throughout this book, and in many of the cases that you read of the entrapment operations or of these kinds of swallow operations, typically. Sometimes it happens with women, but more so, obviously, with the dudes. Like, what is going on in the minds of these dudes? Like, they actually think that some bombshell supermodel chick is into them, when they're totally like the most boring middle class job, but they just happen to be working at some facility that makes nuclear technology, or they work at some facility that makes like, I don't know, Black Hawk helicopters. But then suddenly like a babe is into come on, dude. It's just amazing, like the level of naivety on a lot of these people. But such is the power of our drive to procreate. It's one of the most effective ways to get people. So let's see if we can find this poor chap. I want to see what he looks like. Philip Latour, KGB entrapment. So let's take a look at this guy, this French dude. We may not have any pictures of him. I don't know. It's hard to find pictures of some of these people. Okay, I don't see any pictures, but who knows? I don't think it's any of these dudes. What is this chick? Who's she? What's she doing? Is this the girl that entrapped him? That looks like an AI picture. I'm sick of all these AI pictures flooding everywhere, making everything confusing, and you can't tell what's real and what's not. Anyway, so there's no pictures. Nobody knows about this guy. But a lot of these stories are very similar to what we see in the episodes of The Americans. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. The next example is I think in the very first season, Carrie Russell entraps some nerdy government dude. Do you remember that? When she's all like, it's a little risque. And then Clark, who is the main character here, he's entraps this woman who works at the State Department, I think. And he develops this relationship with her, and he pretends to be also working at a government job that doesn't allow him to divulge much information, or that he can't have a normal relationship with her because of his spy work. And so he dons this very nerdy appearance, which is pretty funny. Here's Clark, and here's Clark seducing Martha, as you can see. And this is, I think, very accurate. This is very realistic. And the next story that he gives as his example is the exploits of a raven named Hans Sutherland. And Hans Sutherland is trained in Moscow to go after and entrap I think a secretary at NATO. And this is very close to the type of story that you have with Clark and Martha. So I tend to think maybe a lot of Clark, these kinds of stories that we read here. Anyway, so he entraps this woman. Let's see what her name was. Leonore Hines. She was a lonely spinster. Yeah, this is exactly like Martha. And I think she ends up killing herself. One of these women ends up killing herself because unaliving because of the trauma. Now, some of these people, the situations get really tense too because they're forced into working for these entities, and they're told if they don't, then they will be put in some sort of prison, Lubyanka or something, or they will be exposed in their home country. So that's of course the point of a lot of the entrapment. But he notes that the recruiting and training of espionage agents, including swallows and ravens, is a unique aspect of the Soviet system. In the United States, they do not obtain recruits from. The United States and Western countries obtain recruits from the military or from selected men and women of all walks in life who combine their espionage activities with regular, normal ways of making a living. During the Cold War, Russians, however, chose their people very carefully, acquiring all the necessary background information and submitting their potential spies to a rigid course training. So you get to go to hump school, which you get your PhD at PU. I went to hump school, got a PhD, got a PhD in D. Y'all laughing like it's fun over here coughing. I can't wait to get on live stream and cough. I'm gonna cough at them people. Y'all just mad because I'm a valedictorian of hump school. Man, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I don't know what you want me to do. I'm trying my best over here. I got a pimp and hose degree, a PhD at NKVD. I got a PhD from the NKVD with a valedictorian D. And we just dropped 100 people for that joke. Where are you going? There's nothing else going on tonight, I assure you of that. This is where it's at. Anyway. The majority of spies for Russian and communist nationals of the country in which they operate fall into two categories: those who believe strongly in the ideology and they are willing to, or those who are willing to betray, or those who can be blackmailed. This is very common. This reminds us of what? MICE. We went into detail recently on several podcasts on this, actually. Pearl actually asked us a bunch of questions about MICE. Do you guys remember MICE? Money, ideology, compromise, and ego. Those are typically the things that are used to compromise people. Now, this also recalls the Americans, this chapter, because he says that there was the Marx Engels sex school set up outside of Moscow. This is pretty crazy. Have you ever heard of this? I never heard of this. Let's see if we can find this. The Marx. We might get something else. Maybe I shouldn't type that in, right? But it's just pretty wild that, nobody knows about this. And yet this was like a huge part of our history. Okay, so nothing comes up, but of course you can't trust any of this Wikipedia stuff anyway, because they don't even pull up. Basically the search engines don't hardly work anymore. But if you remember in the Americans, there was that key sequence where they flash back to the training of the main guy and Kerry Russell. And they were trained in a completely synthetic Soviet version of America. So the Soviets would build these entire American neighborhoods and towns to train their illegals operatives. And the Americans, as you guys know, is about the illegals. The illegals being Directorate S of the KGB, where they were trained to come over into and embed themselves and live in America as Americans their entire life almost, become an American family, and to engage in really important operations, espionage, spying, whatever was needed. Now, according to Mark, the illegals were not the ones that, for example, would engage in assassinations. There was a whole other arm of the KGB that was dealing with assassinations. But in the movie, in the show, The Americans, they kind of combine it into this kind of unrealistic situation where basically Carrie Russell's like sexually entrapping somebody, she's going and assassinating somebody else, and then she's driving home to make dinner for her family in the same day. I mean, come on, that's a little much. But now, why are we talking about this in the fake neighborhoods? Because think about the extent to which the Soviet version, you could say, of MK Ultra here. Think how extensive and in-depth this is. They're building entire fake American neighborhoods. And this is real. So that these agents would go and they would live in these American neighborhoods when they're young. In this story, they're paired up. Carrie Russell and I forget the guy's name. They're paired up and put into the neighborhood, which has a mall, a movie theater, like a school, an apartment, and they live there for 2 or 3 years. They learn English, everything about American culture. I wish I could pull up the. Maybe you know what? You guys should watch that scene. Let's see if there's a clip of that. And I'll put it in the chat for you guys. You guys can watch it later. But let's see. The Americans fake neighborhood. Let's try that. Because I don't remember which episode it is. Oh, here we go. No. Stan discovers Philip is a spy. That's a famous scene. Let's see. The Americans. Soviet. Fake neighborhood. All right. Well, I don't think anything's going to come up, but you get the idea. Now, here's the thing about the fake neighborhoods I was getting at, because if they're going to that extent in terms of training their operatives in sort of fake American neighborhoods, then we find out, as Boer writes in his book, that they made a masterful study, so to speak, of everything to do with SCX. To the extent that, well, let me read what he says. Those enrolled in these schools receive lectures on everything to do with the habits of the target country where they're going. In these fake cities, they live in surroundings built to stimulate the towns and the areas in which they'll be operating. Very much like a Hollywood movie set. Supermarkets, movie theaters, shops, people wear the costumes of their adopted residents to become part of that everyday life. Meticulous attention is given to every detail. How to purchase a bus ticket, tickets to the movies, ordering a meal, the proper amount to tip in that country. Men's magazines are studied. This is back in the Cold War. Prawn movies are imported and are shown regularly to the operatives. Why is this? Well, men chosen to be ravens are required to sleep with their girlfriends to lose all inhibitions and are ordered to make and to indulge in Skittles activities with other men. All of the students learn how to drug, to take care of people in emergency situations with unaliving. Cigarettes, candy, or whatever can be used. Soviets who enter this branch of the KGB are unaware of the kind of training they will undergo, to the extent of the degradation that they suffer by offering themselves to the service of their country or ideology, Marxism. From the beginning, these agents are taught that the use of SCX as an espionage tool is a patriotic duty. So did you notice that? They're intentionally degraded. Now think about this. If the Soviets had figured out ways to create entire fake neighborhoods and SCX schools to degrade and mind control their operatives into being this, do you think that the West and the CIA and the pop stars and the other intelligence agencies in the West, do you think they wouldn't be doing the same thing? Of course they would. Think there any morals? I mean, come on. They're not constrained by... So everybody in Eurasia is immoral and everybody in the West is moral? Come on. Are you that naive? This is silly. In other words, this is another attestation to the reality of perhaps people even in the pop scene undergoing similar types of things. Do you see what I'm saying? If agents can be trained in foreign countries to be handled SEX slaves, it does seem plausible that it could occur in our country as well via, I don't know, like a Britney or something. You see what I'm getting at? Let me clear my throat. This has honey in it, so I'm trying to do my best. Now, we don't know if... now, I think the fake cities and the sex SEX schools were real. Do you guys remember we did an analysis back at the time of Red Sparrow? I did not think this was a very good movie. I think it was a lot of propaganda. But it did have some elements to it. Remember with J-Law? Remember J-Law? This movie is about what I'm talking about. And did nobody watch this? It's 33 million views. Nobody remembers this? Come on. Y'all don't know what's up. Where y'all at? So J-Law she's a Russian, ballerina or whatever. And she's recruited into this school or one of these. She's sent to one in Kazakhstan, right? And, then this is her being sent on her first mission to entertain this diplomat or whatever. I forget all the details of it, but here she is flashing back when she's sent to her school. And then they got this woman that's like Rosa Klebb. I think they actually intentionally chose like a Rosa Klebb type woman. Now, if you don't remember, this is her right here. In the old James Bond stories, that's why Ian Fleming put Rosa Klebb in this very position. And in the one with the Turkish intelligence guy, Bey, B-E-Y, that Bond goes and talks to in Constantinople, is that Dr. No? Rosa Klebb is the handler to the blonde woman that Bond... I don't know. Does he flip her to the west? I can't remember, but it's been a while since I've watched Dr. No. But I think that's Dr. No with where he goes to Turkey, right? But it's very similar to this, and these things both of these situations are based in reality. So you have this sort of Rosa Klebb woman, and Rosa Klebb's intended to be a lesbian, like my glasses, right? Because the idea is that in these SEX schools, people are being taught this, and they're being degraded and initiated into this operative role. Of course, J-Law is, she's super soldier, slay queen, and she, whatever. And then, what's this guy's name? I forget his name. He's the Russians or whatever. Yeah, sure. But now remember, the West, of course, is super moral about all. Oh, we're so moral, and then yet the West pushes all the most degen stuff, right? So it's like, oh, look how evil NKVD was. And yeah, I think the NKVD was evil. This is evil it's evil to put people into this, to ruin their lives and do this kind of stuff, right? Government funded, mind control, SEX control, right? And yet our entire apparatus in the West, from the top down, the corporate elite down, pushes stuff worse than this. So where's all the moralizing, actually? It makes no sense. They're both bad, is my point. Are you a KGB operative? You trust us? No, I'm saying they're both bad. You can't understand that two sides are bad. So, he gives a few cases like this of kind of stories that are kind of boring. I'll pass on those. It's just basically people being manipulated at a basic level about, being lonely and looking for companionship. And it's usually just some naval engineer guy who's nerdy. And again, this hot Russian chick or hot German chick, chats him up, and he's like totally entranced because he thinks he's a Mac daddy when he's like a boring boomer beta man. And he falls. But the next most interesting element that I did not know, that did surprise me. Oh, by the way, there was a story too where the KGB engineered a fake RAPE case. And it was somebody high profile. Let's see who it was. Oh, this was the Philippe Latour guy. So this was the French guy we were talking about earlier. And they gave him a bunch of drinks of wine. He was chatting it up with this babe. And they put a woman around him when he passed out when he was drugged. And he woke up and she ran away claiming that she had been RAPED. So then the KGB had this apparent RAPE situation. And they were blackmailing this guy to get information on whatever radio technology he was working on during the Cold War for the French government. But I think this guy disclosed what happened, so he didn't actually... he lost his job and his security clearance, but he didn't end up, destroyed by the KGB. So that's very reminiscent in the Americans... in the episode where they entrap and stage a scenario with, I think he's a Polish diplomat, if I recall. And there's like a UN meeting. Maybe it's supposed to be something akin to Lech Walesa. I don't think it's intentionally Lech Walesa. I think in the Americans, it's like somebody who works with Lech Walesa and the KGB, Kerry Russell or somebody like does this type of thing. Now, here's the really crazy part. Did you know? I did not know this. I don't know a whole lot about Che Guevara. I'm not super well studied on Latin South America, operations and all that. I know a little bit. I've read Servando Gonzalez's book, but Servando's book is about Castro. So I don't know much about Che, but it turns out Che was being spied on and was being kind of, I wouldn't say manipulated, but the intention was to manipulate Che via his girlfriend, this Latin American, what did this guy call her? His steamy Latin American girlfriend, or Bolivian girlfriend. Let's see who she was. Laura Martinez. Hey, bro, you better get this steamy girl out of here, bro. She's barely gonna spy on me, bro. She was sent by the KGB to spy on Che because Che was not following everything that the Soviet party line wanted. And I've heard some other dudes pretty well studied in the history of Che. Again, I don't know that much about Che, but they were arguing the same thing, that actually Che was a little more off script than Castro. And this is actually the reason why Che was taken out. And this girlfriend was a big part of this. So she was informing and spying on him the entire time to the KGB. They wanted to make sure that they kept Che in line. And Boward says, after a matter of months, Che had built up a substantial army. However, the Soviets were concerned that Che was preaching a creed of Marxism that the USSR didn't exactly want. He was becoming a little too powerful, and the girlfriend was given orders to betray the guerrilla revolution. So, excuse me, this is a different girl. Tanya? Let's see, I thought we were talking about Laura. Let's hold on. I'm getting confused with Che's girlfriends here. All right. Okay, I'm sorry. So Tanya is Laura Martinez's code name. Excuse me. That's why I was confused. So it turns out she was spying on him. She was informing on him, and the KGB could put pressure on her to get him in line or to undermine his revolution. And it ended up not working. It says Tanya was given orders to betray Che. In 1967, she passed information to General Juan Jose Torres, the Bolivian chief of staff, giving away the location of Che's guerrilla camps. Che was captured and shot by the Bolivian army sergeant, and Tanya was then reportedly killed in an ambush, but her body was never found. So basically Che got screwed over by this chick. And that's why his whole thing failed. And I'm guessing that she leaked his location to the right-wing government, which is ironic because let's see who that was. The Bolivian leader, Juan Jose Torres. Hey, bro. You better get this chick out of here, bro. She's barely gonna betray you, man. But for real? Like, she's barely gonna betray you. Juan Jose Torres. Yeah, he definitely looks like a right-wing leader. No, socialist. He's not. So I guess he's a rival to Che. 50th president of Bolivia. He was murdered in the frame of United States-backed Operation Condor. By the way, of course, Pope Francis participated in Operation Condor, if you didn't know. Aiding, let's see. Though most military leaders in Latin America have been associated with right-wing, Torres was a left-wing socialist. But I guess he didn't like Che. Interesting. All of this Latin, South American Cold War stuff, it's like a giant thing. I don't know that much about all. That's not my. I mean, I know a little bit, but it's its own. Just I mean, it's. You can spend your whole life on like CIA, Soviet operations in Latin, South America. Anyway.